If you're watching this at 11 p.m. after another 12-hour day, feeling like you're drowning in work, but somehow still behind on everything, if you've been called quiet quitting for simply doing your actual job description, if you're tired of being told you're lazy when you're literally burning out, this video isn't about motivation. This isn't about hustle harder. This is about a system that's systematically breaking the people at work and then gaslighting us into thinking we're the problem. I'm going to show you the data that proves what you already know in your gut. You're not lazy. Your job is breaking you, and it's time we stopped pretending otherwise. Let me start with numbers that should terrify every American worker. 76% of US employees report workplace burnout. Not stress, burnout. That's 120 million people feeling emotionally, physically, and mentally exhausted from their jobs. But here's what's really insidious about American work culture. When you can't keep up with impossible demands, when you're exhausted from working multiple jobs just to afford rent, when you start setting basic boundaries, suddenly you're not a team player, you're quiet quitting, you're lazy. The average American now works 1,811 hours per year. That's 200 more hours than Germans, 300 more than the French. We're the only developed nation without mandatory paid vacation. We're one of only 3 countries worldwide without paid maternity leave. Look, eats light. And despite being 4 times more productive than workers in 1950, real wages have barely budged since the 1970s. We're working harder, producing more, and getting less. Let me show you exactly how rigged this system is, with numbers corporate America doesn't want you to see. 50% of American workers have left a job specifically to escape a toxic manager. Not for better pay, to escape psychological abuse that we've normalized as tough leadership. The Department of Labor just raised the overtime threshold to $43,888 because employers were exploiting so many workers. Think about that. They had to legally force companies to pay overtime to anyone making less than $44,000 because the wage theft was so widespread. Here's another one. 61% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Not just minimum wage workers. People making $100,000 plus are struggling because housing, healthcare, and education costs have exploded while wages stagnated. I spent years thinking I was the problem. Working 60-hour weeks, checking emails during family dinner, canceling plans because there was too much to do. When I started making mistakes from exhaustion, when I got sick from stress, the message was clear. Work harder, be more efficient, manage your time better. But here's what nobody tells you about American work culture. It's designed to break you. We've created a system where being human is treated as a performance issue. You need 8 hours of sleep? That's not dedication. You want to see your kids? That's not ambition. You get sick? That's inconvenient. You have a mental breakdown from overwork? That's a personal failing. American companies spent $13.6 billion on employee wellness programs last year. You know what would actually improve wellness? Paying living wages, reasonable hours, and treating people like humans instead of productivity machines. The Great Resignation didn't end, it just went underground. Now, it's called quiet quitting, which is corporate gaslighting for doing your actual job instead of 3 people's jobs for 1 person's pay. Here's the most insidious part. We've been conditioned to compete with each other instead of questioning the system. I worked 80 hours and I'm fine. This generation is soft. Back in my day. Meanwhile, CEO compensation has increased 1,322% since 1978, while worker pay increased 18%. They're not working 1,322% harder. They're extracting more value from your labor while convincing you that you're the problem. This system doesn't just break your body, it breaks your mind. It convinces you that your worth as a human being is tied to your productivity, that rest is laziness, that boundaries are weakness. 55% of Americans don't use all their vacation days. We're literally giving back time we've earned because we've been programmed to feel guilty for resting. I see this psychological manipulation in every conversation about work-life balance. Just work harder. I sacrificed everything for success. If you're not grinding, you're dying. But here's what that mindset actually costs us. 120,000 Americans die annually from work-related stress. Our suicide rates are climbing. Marriages are failing. We're raising kids who barely see their parents because we've normalized the idea that work should consume your entire existence. The system has convinced us that if we're struggling, we're the problem. If we're tired, we're weak. If we want a life outside of work, we're not committed. That's not personal development. That's psychological manipulation designed to extract maximum value from your life. So where does this leave you? Right now, watching this video, probably feeling validated, but also wondering what to do with this information. Here's what I want you to understand. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are a human being trying to survive in a system that treats humans as disposable resources. The first step isn't optimization, it's recognition. Recognizing that your exhaustion is rational, that your desire for work-life balance isn't entitlement, that your need for rest isn't weakness. I'm not going to sell you a course on how to hustle harder or optimize your way out of systemic problems. What I am going to do is continue investigating these systems, sharing the research, and building a community of people who refuse to accept that work should consume our entire existence. If this resonated with you, if you're tired of being gaslit into thinking you're the problem, then you're exactly who this channel is for. We're not here to chase the latest productivity hack or passive income scheme. We're here to age with clarity in a world full of chaos. Subscribe if you want more reality-backed insights instead of hustle hype. Comment below and tell me what's one way your job has tried to convince you that being human is a performance issue. Let's start building a community of people who see through the BS. And remember, in a system designed to break you, simply surviving with your humanity intact is an act of resistance. I'll see you in the next one.